guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over this great email that was sent from a subscriber. It's from a guy, he's 50 years old, and he's going to share his story about his, journey, if you will, about how he started off in life as your stereotypical bad boy and alpha. And just like a bad boy alpha, had no problem getting girls, was obviously a guy's guy, that type of guy, to where he met the woman, became his wife, and then he shifted into being your typical married guy. He still had a lot of good alpha qualities, but with her and the family, he was, I wouldn't quite say a sitcom dad, but definitely there were some traits there. And when things started getting tough for him, his wife, who, by the way, I should have mentioned in the beginning, when he met her, there were some red flags. No surprise there. And you're going to see more. Well, all of a sudden, then, she stopped seeing him as the king, and things started getting bad, and, things go south from there, and they end up getting divorced. But then he realizes, obviously, where he'd gone wrong, got back to his old ways, and now this guy's on top of the world, making great money, doing well at his job. He's seen as the king by his kids, by everybody else, dating a lot of hot women, and guess what? His ex, who cheated on him and all that, is now dying to get back in his life for a second chance. And he's doing great, and it's awesome to hear this. And he shares, this guy's well aware of the mistakes he made along the way. And so he points them out, as I'm going to point them out. And I'm sharing this to show you guys just where you can learn from where he went wrong, but also there's hope. So if you were once that guy when you were younger, and then you met some girl and you got a little pee-whipped and things like that, you can always go back to where you were. But you got to really be honest with yourself and look at your situation and also see where you went wrong, which a lot of people aren't willing to do. But anyhow, guys, I don't want to spoil too much. It's a really good story. I think you'll enjoy it. A little longer, but it's worth the time. So it starts off, he says, Dear SSM, I want to share with you my story. Unlike many of your stories, English is my first language, so hopefully this will read okay. Yeah, lately I've been getting so many stories from guys all over the world. English isn't their first language, but thank you. This made my job easier reading this story today. It says, I believe that my story may help your other followers pick the right path. To cut to the end, I am 50 years old, shave-headed, fit, and look like Bruce Willis in Die Hard 3. My friends tease me about this, but it's a good look and women over 30 love it. I am well off financially now and have ended up stronger, better, and more successful than ever. And yes, guys, you're going to see that. It's a good happy ending here. My ex has been chasing me to get back with her for over 8 years now. He says in parentheses, I wouldn't dream of going back, of course, as I have tons of younger women to choose from these days. He says, since my ex left 9 years ago, I have successfully raised both my kids, got them through university, and both my son and daughter, who were initially negatively impacted by my ex-wife's actions, are now both independently alphas in their own worlds and social groups. Life's good, but it didn't start that way. He says, Chapter 1, the beginning. He literally breaks this down almost like a novel, and it's pretty cool. Chapter 1, the beginning. A natural RP'd guy. A bad boy with R-pill values before the R-pill existed. In my early 20s, I was a complete carefree player. A high notch count, lived for the gym and martial arts, and for going out in the town to pull women. A real man's man. In 1994, I met my now ex. She was about 3 to 4 years older than me, mid-divorce, and stunning. There's a red flag. She's already going through divorce and she's in her 20s. That should have been bye-bye. And even if she's hot, okay, you can hook up and then you can go move on. But unfortunately, that look and the rolling in the hay got to him. He says, her sister had warned her about me being a player, so as with all women, she was drawn to me like a moth to a flame. She came over to me and introduced herself, and just like that. Clearly that night, I took her home and got lucky, and she was dynamite in bed. So, of course, she's attracted to you because her sister warned her about you. Immediately, she thought, ooh, challenge. He says, red flag number 1. It took a day or two for her to tell me that she was just getting a divorce. Her husband was 12 years older than her, and she had been having an affair with another guy who was a millionaire, but he was a beta with women. At this point, I didn't care. I was getting laid and going out to continue to spin plates. So I told her and carried on, but never treated her as a priority, so naturally she dumped the husband, the millionaire boyfriend, and soon went out with me, with her mission to make me exclusive with her. Eventually, I stopped spinning plates. So let's review. She was married. She was cheating on her husband with another dude who was a millionaire, but he was a total beta, so she could milk him for resources. And now they're getting divorced, all by the ripe age of, I don't know, like her late 20s. And now she's on to you. And do you not think for 1 second the second things don't go the way she wants, she's not going to go cheat on you? Now, obviously, this guy knows this now, but these are important things to pay attention to, you guys. If you are hooking up with a girl who openly admits that she's cheated on her boyfriends or husbands or fiancés before, mark my words, you get involved with her, it can be all magical and great, but the second things go bad, she's going to go back to her old habits. If you don't believe me, knock yourself out, go ahead and think you can change her, and watch what happens. And you're going to see here. He says, lesson 1, don't get hypnotized by the sex. When a woman shows you who she is, believe her. And this time I ignored that. It cost me in the end. And that can go for anybody, men or women. If they show you their true colors, pay attention to that. He says, lesson 2, when you don't treat a woman as a priority, they will drop husbands and millionaire boyfriends. He says, I was R-pilled before it existed, but didn't know it. I strayed from the path and I eventually paid. Yeah, I tell you all the time. The women are the bottom of your list of priorities, guys. Your purpose and your goals and ambitions are number 1. Your bros, health, should be number 2. Eating well, being healthy, gym and all that. Number 3 can be a tiebreaker between your bros and your family. If your family is good to you and loyal, okay. Same thing with the bros. And then number 4, probably your dog or your cat. They'd be higher for me. And then women are at the bottom. And treat them that way, and they'll be chasing after you, especially the hot ones, because they're always being treated number 1 by all the other guys. So therefore, you're a challenge. You put yourself first. It's not that hard. Chapter 2, the middle years, becoming blue-pilled. I will fast forward 2 years. We still got on famously. The sex was still fantastic. I was young, 25 years old, and she was 28. Red flag 2, entering the epiphany phase. However, she was really hot and looked like Catherine Zeta-Jones. Life couldn't get better. We got to a point where if we walked past a jewelry shop, she would stop and stare at the engagement rings. Every time. So on the spur of the moment, I suggested we get married. Smack. You want to marry the girl that was already through her divorce in her mid to late 20s and admitted that she was cheating? He learned. It says, lessons 3. If you're dating a woman approaching 30 years old, you will feel the pressure, spoken or unspoken, to get married. You bet your ass. The number 30 is the scariest number there is to a young woman. They hate that number because it means, guess what? They know, whether they want to admit it or not, that's when things start going downhill. He says, mistake number 2. I got married. Yeah, I know, SSM. Say it. Smack. Yes, smack. I cannot believe you married this chick. Dude, she better have been hot. And she better have been so amazing in bed that at least you got that part out of it. I'm probably guessing she was, since this guy's obviously had his plenty of fun down up until that point. He said, we actually had a really great 12 years. We had my 2 children, 1 girl, 1 boy, and they're the best. But along with kids comes responsibility, and a good guy will change his priorities. He is no longer the center of his life, but he puts his wife and kids first on course. There you go. The journey to the dark side when you start putting the wife first. And I get, obviously, kids are so important and they're a top priority, but you can't put all your wants and needs and desires dead last all the time. A lot of dads do that, and it doesn't go well. And you most certainly don't put the wife first. No, no, no. Perfect world, guys, you could do that with the ones you love. Really, you could. And just like in the movies and shows, they'd love you back. But in reality, the second you do, and you start being unhappy and making yourself moving mountains and making yourself unhappy to make them happy, they lose respect for you. Can't do it. In all other areas of life, I kept being an alpha. Work was good. I had many promotions and became a senior manager. I achieved a black belt in karate, fought for my country, and later got another black belt in jiu-jitsu. Dude, that's awesome. These things are my passion. These passions definitely helped maintain the polarity in our relationship and kept attraction high for a long time. I ran a karate club and was well known in my local town and always treated with respect. I put up with no shit from anyone. She could see this constantly, and I now know this helped satisfy her natural hypergamy for many years. Because you're a leader, and you could whip some ass. And you said you served your country. These are all alpha leadership quality skills. And of course, when people know you can fight, they're not going to mess with you. They treat you differently. It's amazing how that works. He says, Chapter 3, where it all goes wrong. And yes, it goes wrong. At this point, just when I had everything rolling along great, I hit my first obstacle. I moved into a new job, and for a while it was good, but the manager was a fat, ugly, inside and out, older, venomous gal who'd been notorious for not understanding her own job. She had bullied her way up the career ladder. Her name was Elsie. She had been single all her life, and it was easy to see why she was a total narcissist. Every gal I've ever known named Elsie is large and in charge. Every single one. It's like you're condemning your daughter to be obese if you name your daughter Elsie. So don't do that, you future fathers out there. She left me alone for 6 months, but soon enough the customer and my colleagues started to give me great feedback, some even suggesting I should be promoted to her job. Uh-oh. That was it. Elsie started to bully me in every way she could in the workplace, giving me bad reports, performance improvement plans for nothing, etc. This carried on for the most of a year, and I started to dread work. The stress definitely showed at home. I would talk about my concerns, worry, share my feelings with my wife, and looking back now, this is where she started to lose respect for me. Now here's the part where I say, guys, how many times have I told you don't go pouring out your fears, your emotions, your worries, your stress, all that shit to your woman? It turns them off. Even though in a perfect world you should be able to do that to a loved one that loves you and cares about you and all that, it's going to turn them off. Okay? And I get shit about this all the time, and I'm going to get shit in the comments this time, but I'm not going to back down till hell, not even hell freezes over. I'm not going to back down from this opinion because it's the truth. And this guy knows it. He lived it. They want you to be strong and in control and a leader all the time. Because if you start showing what is perceived as weakness and you're not in control and don't have it together, then they have to then step up and go into their masculine and be in control and strong and fix things. And they don't want to do that. They want you to do that. And it sounds like BS, but it is what it is. So if you got some problems going on at work and other things and got stress and you're worried and you're fearful, if she can sense it and she will just say, hey, just got some things on my mind, I'll work it out. And if you got it, and I will certainly say, let it out, but to your bros, your trusted confidants. And they can help with solutions to fix it. Don't go to her to be your therapist to fix your problems. It's going to turn her off. And that will make her start to lose respect. And when she starts losing respect, her love starts going down. And there's going to be less action in the bedroom. And so on and so on. And if you keep this up forever, it's going to get worse. And eventually, they're going to start thinking you're not the man they married. It's a bunch of crap, but it is what it is. I don't preach BS. I don't talk about fantasy here. I talk about real life, good, bad, or ugly. And people either like it or they hate it. Anyway, I know it took me 5 minutes to get that point across, but I had to say it. He says, lesson number 4, women must respect a man more than they love him to maintain attraction. Don't use some of them as your therapist. They don't care. Handle your suit yourself and be a man. Exactly. He learned. They don't respect you. They sure as hell ain't gonna love you. After 12 months of this incessant bullying, it all got too much, and I broke down and took a month off with stress. However, at this point, I had had enough, so I spent the whole month seeking legal advice and wrote formal grievance. I decided that I would fight this BITCH when I returned to work. To cut a long story short, for months after my return to work, I went through a really, really difficult HR case. I was warned by my union rep that I wouldn't win as my company never admitted bullying took place due to fears of litigation, but if I did a great case, the company would behind the scenes take action. He says, okay, so missing lots of details, here's what happened. No fault of bullying was admitted, and they backed her up on the surface, and he says, I returned to work. However, Elsie was removed from her directly managing any staff, but kept her grade and job, and probably kept her meal plan too. 6 months after Elsie was made redundant, he says, yes, my right paid off, but the cost of my marriage was high, though I didn't know it yet. Translation, you had behaved that way too long, it was turning her off. So all these years, you were in her eyes, someone that she could respect, an alpha. But then you had this brief period in your life, which wasn't that long, that you in her eyes was showing weakness, and boom, turned her off permanently. So I applied for another post and I got it with a promotion. So it looks like I came out on top, right? Wrong. While all this had been going on, my wife had been losing attraction for me, but I hadn't noticed it with all that had been going on. Lesson 5. Women don't care about your struggles. Don't share your deep problems with women. It makes them drier than the Sahara. Yes. After this chapter of my life, my wife began to join dance classes and became obsessed. Eventually got to the point where she was out dancing 5 or 6 nights per week. 5 or 6 nights per week? Really? What about time with the kids? What about time helping around the house? What about some time with you? Sounds like she doesn't want to be around you, maybe because she lost respect. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, this guy's a good guy. We can all see this here. But, I mean, and he obviously made mistakes. But this also, look at her character, too. When things don't go well, she bails. This is her history. Look how her first marriage, what I tell you about there. Things were going with her husband, so she was hooking up with some millionaire boyfriend. And then eventually dumped them for this guy, the bigger alpha. So if you start acting weak, she's going to go find herself a real man. In her eyes. I'm going to emphasize in her eyes. Doesn't stop to fix things, doesn't stop to be loyal, bails and cheats. He says she also, against my wishes, left her good management job and tried to start her own business. While I didn't want this, I agreed and supported her, and he said, big mistake. I just looked after the kids, and let's face it, she wasn't and worked. Let's just face it, she wasn't and worked harder. My only outlets were my jiu-jitsu, the gym, and career. I worked hard to maintain our family income. After 3 years and my ex failing in 3 businesses, but still obsessively dancing all evenings, she called me at work and told me we were over. He says, wow, what a kick in the nuts. She picked her moment impeccably because I just accepted the bigger job of my life in a new company. Translation, bigger job, bigger salary, bigger payout. We discussed only 4 weeks before what a big move this was, but she agreed I should do it. I resigned from my old safe job and went for the new step up. With her agreement, I took on this new challenge. I had done everything a good husband should do, given her the space so she could enjoy her life. I earned more to cover what she lost and looked after our kids. The pressure on me was immense. New job, marriage in bits, looking after 2 teenagers. Yeah, dude, at this point, you're obviously like in your 40s. So there's other things coming in there, paying attention to your health. Your body isn't working like it used to, that's for sure, in terms of your muscles and injuries. You know how I know this? Because I'm going to be 44 in 2 months, and every year since I was 37, the elbow now hurts. The shoulder injury, torn bicep. I tore my pec last May. I'm finally able to start getting back to the gym again and putting on some size again. This hurts, that hurts, amongst other things. Yeah, and now you have all this shit to deal with. But you either just crash, you roll with the punches, and do what you can. For 6 weeks, she stayed at home, and I told the kids, now 13 and 15, what happened. I think she has strayed like that for a long time, sleeping in the spare bedroom, dancing, and doing what she wanted. Anyhow, I found my backbone, and although I didn't know, I found my alpha R-pill mojo again and took control. Now the real you's coming to the surface. You've had enough. He says, Chapter 4, Discovering My Alpha. I would retitle this Rediscovering Your Alpha. It was always there, but it just been buried deep. I don't know how I survived in my new job, turning up each day after a 2.5-hour journey, trying to impress and do whilst wondering what to do next and look after my kids. After 6 weeks, with my ex treating our home like a hotel, I'd had enough. I saw my lawyer and planned a divorce, even though I still loved her deeply and didn't want it. I told her to leave, as having her at home was hurting me and the kids. She agreed and moved in with her mothers. Good for you. Send her ass to go live with her mom. A week after she left, I had served her with divorce papers. Now she began to feel the consequences of her actions. Oh, by the way, the reasons stated for the divorce were her obsessive dancing, he says tango, and so she could pursue her failed businesses. I told her if she didn't argue anything, I would pay her off the best I could. I wouldn't sue her for maintenance, as she couldn't afford to pay, and I would rear the children as I didn't think she was a fit parent. She agreed to all. Great mom, huh? Selfish, selfish, selfish. If she was smoking hot as you say that she was, and probably, I'm sure she was darn good looking for her age then too, probably even as a kid, a little girl, because she was so pretty and cute, she was treated with extra special treatment. So her whole life, she thought that she was the queen. And so if things don't go well for her, that she actually has to actually work or be supportive of someone, she bails and cheats. And notice here, she had no problem moving on even from her kids. This is a sign of her character. This is a sign that you saw early on but chose to ignore because you were listening to that head instead of the one up here. Now you learned. But you know this, and your mistakes will help others out there hopefully not make the same. That's why we do this. It's why we help each other out. Anyway, he says, interestingly, she only stayed with her mom for 2 months before my mother-in-law kicked her out for simply being so selfish about how she treated me and her kids. Anyway, I kept my word, and 6 months later, I paid her off handsomely. Divorce done, and I got her away from me, and I went no contact. This was instinctive. I wasn't doing a reattract just to stay sane. I still loved her deeply. Before the divorce was complete, I was blown away to find out how that she had a boyfriend. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised you were shocked because remember, she was married and she had a boyfriend and then she found you. See? They almost always have some other dude backup plan ready to go before they bail. Always. He says, under 3 months after she left. Wow, how quick was that? Dude, I'm sure she was seeing him beforehand. Had he been around before? I believe he had, but I'll never know until as she denies it to this day. Of course she's going to deny it. It's only going to make her look bad. So for 13 months, she barely saw her children, even though I encouraged her to. Their kids need their mom. During this time, my daughter decided her mom was a shitty person, even though I never spoke negatively about my ex despite being brokenhearted, but at 16, kids have their own minds. My son was different and became very anxious due to the abandonment fears, to the point where I sought out a counselor to help him. The irony is my ex was a counselor and hypnotherapist, but she refused to help him as she was busy. Wow. So 13 months, she barely saw her kids. Selfish as hell. Narcissist. But don't worry, guys. Paybacks are coming. Eventually, I got my kids through this stage. My daughter was okay. My son improved massively. And lo and behold, over a year later, after almost no context, I received the text. She wanted to meet up for a coffee and talk. My answer was, no thanks. I didn't want to see her and I was busy dating. A week later, another text saying she was so sorry, etc., etc. Over the next few years, the messages and letters kept coming. My answer is always the same. No. I still loved her, but I just couldn't trust her anymore. Right. You can't trust someone, there's no relationship. End of story. Trust is the foundation of all relationships. She blew it. No pun intended. She ruined the marriage. She ruined the relationship. Everything was great, but the second you actually, God forbid, were going through tough times and needed someone to listen and help you, took a nosedive. And don't get me wrong, I get the instinct to go to a loved one and talk about things that are on your mind, your stress, and have them comfort you. That's nice. I'm all for. I'm for the emotions to do so, but I teach you guys don't do that with your lady, because if you make her your therapist and sounding board and all your fears and all that stuff, you know what's going to happen. A perfect world, you could do that. So bottle up if you have to, and just tell your bros. I'm not saying keep it all inside that you're walking around ticking time bomb. That's not what I'm saying. Talk to your bros or trusted parties, but your lady, not your therapist. Because the second you start acting, it'll be perceived as weak. I went through this shit 10 minutes ago, but you get my point. I still loved her, but I couldn't trust her anymore. She was still going out with her boyfriend, but constantly begging me to have her back. He says, see, lesson number 1. When a woman shows you who she is, believe her and do it back. Yeah, she showed her true colors. You should have listened. I can now see she was untrustworthy. I discovered the early R pill. I knew I was a natural alpha and rediscovered the effect I could have on a woman. I had more time, the big job, and it was going well. And I was dating the hottest women on average 10 years younger. So, go back to his ex, who's in the 40s, and obviously not as appealing as she once was, and untrustworthy, might add, or women 10 years younger and hotter. Gee, tough decision. I was investing well, making some serious money. My ex complained to my kids her boyfriend was a waster. He moved in with her but didn't pay rent. She gained weight and her health wasn't good. Boy, she wanted me back. The texts were constant. My response was to make sure my no contact was harder than ever. I would only discuss stuff to do with the kids and nothing else. Smart. It's all about the kids, nothing more. And I'd keep your communication just to texts and emails, just in case. Then one day I was out having breakfast at my local restaurant and she walked in. She knew I'd be there as I was a regular. She sat down and started telling me how we should start over again. Yeah, sure. I said little, but just smiled and said, I can't respect a person who could just do this whilst they were still going out with her boyfriend. She asked me what if she dumped him. So that was it. She was ready to do to him which I believe she'd done to me. I said she couldn't compete with the ladies I date now. I didn't trust her, and no thank you. Ooh. You being involved with beautiful women, let alone younger beautiful women, that's just icing on the cake. It'll make her crazy. Chapter 5. That was about 4 years ago, and I now come full circle to the point I began this email. Like ever, life has its ups and downs, but my kids are balanced and grown up. My daughter has moved out last year with her boyfriend. She's studying for a nursing degree, but comes to see her old man regularly, and we go out on the town and travel a bit. My son is doing his master's degree in business and pursuing excellence and has a great career plan. He is incredibly successful with women, and he knows that he has to always focus on his game, career, and self-improvement. My daughter knows this too, not on the opposite sex. My son can be anxious at times, still due to what happened, but he manages it well and knows how to handle it. Dude, you're a great role model to your children. That's great. They're going to do well. And you're showing your daughter a strong man, and so she'll then be drawn to a guy that's like you. As for me, I've never been happier. I have a great job working in a massive defense company as a senior manager. I am paid really well. I'm really picky with women too. Great car, house, motorbike, egg, and I'm currently dating a lady 10 years younger. She wants to hang out all the time, but I see her when I can on my terms. Good. And that's the way it stays, or she can go. She knows this and treats me really well. I also find pulling women is easy. I have learned just about all there is to know about body language, flirting, and pickup artist techniques, but to be honest, only use them when I meet a lady of the right quality for me. I'm at the point that I can read attention signals across the room, approach and take a woman home almost on the spot. My friends respectfully tease me about how I can do this. They're not making fun of you, they envy you, trust me. Lesson 6, it's all about confidence and learn how to flirt and challenge women without being sleepy. 99% of guys don't do this as well. Anyhow, women come second in my world to my kids, personal success, and my own fun adventures. They know this pretty quick and treat me as a high-value guy. Life is good. It's been a journey, though, but as Winston Churchill famously said, when you're going through hell, keep going. Exactly. SSM, I hope this story is good enough to feature on your channel, as it's through watching content like yours, reading through tons of R-Pill books, and learning hard lessons, that I'm living proof that if you keep fighting, progressing, and making sure women don't become your focus, that even when things go wrong, they can be turned around. Keep up the good work, SSM. Keep your stories inspiring others. Kind regards. Bro, that was a great story. I really enjoyed reading it an hour ago, and I really enjoyed reading it again for all you guys. Excellent. I'm really glad things are going well. Goes to show you guys, even a guy, as he started off in his life as a typical bad boy type with a lot of strong alpha qualities, meet that one chick, smoking hot, and does it for him in every way, and boom, over time, he can start to go away from the ways he was in the beginning. And it took a while. It took a while when all the stress and anxiety and BS at work started happening, and look how quickly she turned on him. Like that, after all those years. But there were red flags in the beginning, guys, major ones, but he chose to ignore them, which a lot of guys would. I'm not judging. He was younger. He didn't know any better. But he turned this stuff around. His life's going well, and he had the added satisfaction of her, for years, been trying to get him back. And that's always the best feeling. Somebody treats you badly and kicks you to the curb. We've all been there. When you get it together and you move on, and then they're back trying to get in their life, oh, that feels good. And some guys take them back and they don't learn, they get burned again, but a lot of guys, fortunately, nowadays learn and they don't do that. So that's really good here. And I'm also glad your kids are doing great. So, bro, great story. Keep being a good example to your kids. Keep moving forward. You're going to have a great life. So thank you for sending your story. It's awesome. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. I'm going to just think about this, and be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.